Hey everyone, just want to let you guys know that there's a great sale going on nexus.gg right now. You can go to my link, nexus.gg/redhawk, or in the link in the description or the pinned comment. It'll take you to this page right here. EU4 is 70% off. All of the other DLCs are 50% off. And some of the latest ones like Leviathan is 30% off, Emperor is 40% off. There's a discount on Origins and on Lands of the North too. So it's a great way to get some DLCs that you don't have at a discount, or even the base game if you don't have it already. And of course, if you do choose to buy any of these right here, I do get a little percentage of that, so it's a great way to support the channel. I don't know how long the sale will last, so go ahead and hurry up and make sure to grab a bunch of DLCs if you don't have them. Alright, let's move on with the video. Hi everyone, and welcome to today's video where we're going to be doing a guide for Holland for EU4 1.35 Domination. So Holland is a nation that starts off in the Low Countries region of Europe, and we are a part of the HRE, and we do start off as a junior partner of the nation of Burgundy, which also has two other junior partners, Flanders and Brabant, and a vassal, Nevers, and they're a super strong overlord. But due to the fact that Burgundy has no shortage of rivals right at the start, it will be super easy for us to break free from them and kickstart our campaign by getting nations such as England, France, Castile, Aragon, Savoy, Austria, or maybe even someone else to support our independence. Holland, and later when you form the Netherlands, is of course one of the best nations to play tall in EU4, if not the best. And even though with the addition of the new idea groups in 1.35 and the changes that have been brought to the old ones, it is still the best nation to play tall, even though the meta has changed a little bit. By playing as Holland, you will be breaking free from Burgundy, conquering the entirety of the lowlands, conquering the entirety of the English Channel, and going on to play tall in the best way possible, and you will go on to establish the most powerful colonial and trade empire the world has ever seen. So let's take a look at what we need to do as Holland. Alright, here we are as Holland, and like I said, the first thing we need to do is actually break free from Burgundy, but you don't necessarily have to break free from them, because in some cases you can get lots of nations to support your independence, and then Burgundy just lets you go for free. If you want to do that, you can restart until you get about 3 or 4 nations to support you, but if you want to fight the war and take some provinces from them immediately, then you can go ahead and get 1 or 2 nations and just declare like that. And like I said earlier, there's no shortage of nations that'll support you. Usually you can get some of England, France, Castile, Aragon, Savoy, and Austria to support you, although the best nation to support you would be France, since they're the closest and they can attack immediately. And let's see over here, in my case, Aragon and France would support me, Savoy if I improve with them a little bit, so these are the nations that I'm gonna get, and maybe Savoy as well. But before we ask those guys to support us, let's go into our estates and summon the Diet. You can pick whichever agenda is best for you. Then we're gonna give the clergy religious state and religious diplomats. We're going to give the nobility primacy of the nobility and increased levies, and we're going to give the burghers land of commerce, patronage of the arts, and indebted to the burghers. We'll give out the cheaper advisor privileges later once we've broken free from Burgundy, and then we can seize land. As Burgundy, we are making a decent bit of money at the start, and once this war with Burgundy is over, we'll make even more, so you can go ahead and hire 3 advisors right at the start. I'm going to get this yearly inflation reduction admin advisor. You can get whichever guy you want. Get a diplo rep or improve relations. Diplo advisor, even if he's a level 2, I have this level 1 guy, so I am going to hire him. And get a morale, discipline, fort defense, or manpower level 1 mill advisor. I have a fort defense guy right here, so I am gonna hire him. Next, we're gonna take our boats right here, merge these fleets, and take them somewhere over here. We don't want our boats engaging Burgundy's, Flanders, and Brabant's boats because they'll get beaten up, so just move them here so we don't lose them. Now we can go ahead and ask nations to support our independence, and by getting that diplo rep guy, I don't even have to improve with Savoy, they'll immediately support me. So there we go, I'll ask France just like that, and I'll ask Aragon too, and once one of these diplomats is back, I'll ask Savoy as well, even though we don't really need them. Maybe Burgundy can get busy down here sieging their mountain forts. Next, we're gonna move our troops over to Amsterdam, and we're also gonna go ahead and hire the Free Company once again in Amsterdam. Now it's time to unpause and wait for December 11th. As you can see, after a few days, I've gotten France, Aragon, and Savoy to support me. However, in your case, if you've gotten someone like England, France, and Austria to support you, Burgundy might just let you go. Or France, Castile, and Austria, France, Castile, and Aragon. If you usually get 3 really powerful countries, Burgundy will let you go for free. So even if you can do that, you might not want to, because I do think it's a little bit better for us to fight this war, even though we're gonna lose a bunch of admin points, dabbing up. Once your army is right here, you can attach the Free Company over to your main army, and I do recommend activating the Defensive Edict in your only state of Holland right here. Now we can also start building a spy network on Burgundy, and once a month has passed and we can declare on Burgundy, that's when we'll do it. This is just so we get some sieges done faster. Additionally, before you declare this war, make sure to set the provinces that Flanders and Brabant own here as provinces of high interest. And now that enough time has passed to where we can declare on Burgundy again, that's exactly what we're gonna do. So there we go, declare war, independence, and the nations that support your independence are of course gonna come in. And boom, there we go, just like that. We've declared our first war, and we did lose only one stab. At this point, you can also give your ruler mill command just for this first war right here. Later, of course, we're gonna get a regular general. So go ahead and fight the independence war, let your allies do most of the work, and try not to get your army wiped. If you can run away through the HRE somehow, then do it. You can also ask for military access to various nations so you can pop out in the south of France. I've explained this in previous guides. And after just about 2 or 3 years, of course, also depending on who your allies are, the war with Burgundy will be over. Unfortunately, my boats did still end up getting beaten up. But once your war with Burgundy is done, here's what you're gonna do. Of course, you're gonna go ahead and demand independence, and you could call it just at that if you want to stay allied to the nations that have supported your independence. But here's the thing, as Holland, we don't need that. We don't need strong allies to protect us from big guys wanting to attack us because we are in the HRE. We're protected by Austria and their allies. So that's why I recommend that you do take land even if you've allied France, and even if they get angry, usually you can still re-ally them after they break your alliance with you. And after you get independence, something else I recommend doing is taking 2 more provinces. And this is the combination I recommend. Either take Antwerp and Breda, or take Ghent and Bruges. It's totally up to you which of these you do. By getting Antwerp or Bruges, we gain another center of trade. This one produces glass, this one produces cloth, and then Ghent and Breda are also pretty good provinces. One of them is farmlands, the other one is woods, but they both produce cloth and they're pretty high dev themselves. In my case right here, I am gonna take Bruges and Ghent. And then you could also get war reps if you want to. You can take their money if you want to, depending on your war participation. But what I like to do is independence, 2 provinces, and war reps. No money, because we're probably not gonna get a lot. Our war participation isn't that high. So that's it. That's your first war with Burgundy done. And there we go. Now we're independent and we've grown by 2 provinces. Of course, if Burgundy just let you go, if you had strong allies at the start, you're gonna have to wait a couple of years for your truce with them to expire so you can fight them. But now, after we fought Burgundy, it's time to chill, improve relations with outraged countries because some guys over here will be mad, and once aggressive expansion dies down in about 4 or 5 years, we'll continue with our conquest. So at this point, with 1 diplomat, you can improve relations with outraged countries, and with the other one, you can spy on Utrecht, Gelre, Friesland, or someone like that. Of course, after this war, you will be able to set rivals, just rival whoever is available. I'm gonna rival Utrecht, Gelre, and Friesland, since they're nations we want to conquer anyway. Of course, as the Dutch nations, now we do have a new unique naval doctrine, the Dutch Trade Fleet, which gives us plus 25% colonial range and plus 25% ship power. This is pretty good, but not for now, for later in the game. Right now, we're most going to take advantage of galley combat ability until we beat these guys up along with England over here. Later, once you consolidate a big foothold over the English Channel, then you can go ahead and swap to Dutch Trade Fleet. But for now, free Oarsmen. Because it's still the start of the game and we're really not making that much money from trade right now, you can tell these merchants to do something else. So what I like to do right here in the early part of the game while we're still consolidating the lowlands is just put one of these 2 guys right here to collect in the English Channel trade node. I'm going to tell the guy from Lubeck to do that right now. And this isn't to make money, we're going to tell him to establish communities so we gain more improved relations so we don't get coalitioned that easy. Later, once we take care of these guys, you can move them around to an optimal spot for making money. Right now, France just broke their alliance with me. This is expected and it will happen in your game too if you take land, but you will probably be able to re-ally them later on. Once you core up the provinces that you've taken in your initial war, you will be able to take the mission Assert Our Sovereignty, which gives us some mill points. After you've gotten Tech 4 in every category, and of course after the Renaissance has spawned, you should go ahead and activate the Encourage Development State Edict in your capital state of Holland, and dev either your capital Den Haag or Amsterdam up to 30 development to help speed up the spawning of the Renaissance. It will spread pretty quickly, so no need to push it above 30. We're also doing this to take off the age objective for a large city. So there we go. I'm gonna develop Den Haag right here. First, I'm gonna expand infrastructure to make it even cheaper, and then I'm gonna push it to 10 in every category. At this point, I've improved relations with France up to the max, and in a few years, I think I will be able to re-ally them. I'm also improving relations with Austria because it is possible for me to ally them. Right now, it's also not a bad idea to get 1 or 2 more minor HRE allies, nations that are about your size, so they can help you out in the wars versus these other Dutch miners. In my case, I'm gonna ally Cologne here, and the Palatinate. Why not? Electors, decently strong nations. After some improving with Austria, and after I scornfully insulted one of their rivals, the Ottomans, I can also ally them. This is pretty good. There's literally no downside to being allied to the Emperor. After about 4 or 5 years have passed since your initial war with Burgundy and aggressive expansion has died down a little bit, it is time for you to continue your conquests, and you're gonna declare on one of the following 3 nations, either Friesland, Utrecht, or Gelre, depending on which nation is the easiest to fight. In my case, Utrecht is, since they're only allied to Berg. As we can see, Gelre has a bunch of allies, Friesland slightly more annoying than Utrecht, so that's why I'm gonna fight them. So, whichever one of these 3 nations is the easiest to fight, go ahead and declare on them. If you fight Gelre, you can take this province and vassalize the rest of them, or leave them alive for later, and if you fight one of these 2 guys, take a look at your aggressive expansion. If you can take 2 provinces from them without getting coalitioned, then do it. If not, just take 1, and we'll take care of the other one later. Expansion is gonna be really slow over in this region since these provinces are so highly developed. But don't worry, you're not slow, that's just the way the game is in this region. So there we go. I'll go ahead and declare on Utrecht. I'll call in Cologne or the Palatinate once I get enough favors with them. Now that I've improved Den Haag up to 30, and we helped speed up the spawning of the Renaissance a bit, you can now set it to advancement effort, just like that. I did also forget to say that after your first war versus Burgundy, you should go ahead and give the clergy Clerical Advisory Council, give the nobility Aristocratic Councilors, and you should give the burghers Commercial Advisory Board. I just forgot to do it. You should have done this right after your war with Burgundy ends, and right after you've stabbed back up. And once the war with whoever you're fighting here is done, like I said earlier, you're gonna take as much as aggressive expansion permits you, unless you're fighting Gelre, in which case you can take this one province and vassalize this province, or just take this province and leave this alive for later. Let's see in my case right here. I declared for Utrecht, it's only 17 aggressive expansion, so we're good. And what if we take this one too? No risk of a coalition, so we're good. And there we go, that's that. Either 1 province or 2 provinces and all of their money. And that's your second war done. You're now bigger by 1 or 2 provinces. Once again, it's time to improve relations with outraged countries, chill for a few more years, and fight whoever we didn't fight out of these 3 guys, or if you waited more than that, your truce with Burgundy may be up, in which case you'll try and fight them and their subjects. After your second war is done, you should have paid off all your old burgher loans, in which case you should go ahead and take new burgher loans. And with these ducats, you can start building up your marketplaces, which are super important buildings. We need to take a big control of the English Channel trade node. So of course you're gonna build one in your capital, you're gonna build one in Amsterdam. If you took Antwerp or Bruges, you're gonna build one over there, pretty much in all the center of trade or estuary provinces. Something you could also do, but this relies heavily on RNG, is not fight Burgundy again and wait for the Burgundian inheritance. And of course, Austria, if they don't get Burgundy, they're gonna ask whoever got Burgundy to release the Low Countries as independent nations. And then you can just fight Flanders and Brabant right here without fighting Burgundy. But this relies too heavily on RNG, so we don't really want to wait for that, even though it is a valid option if you don't have the opportunity to fight Burgundy early on. For your Tier 2 government reform, it's actually not time to pick our Tier 2 government reform. As we can see right here, we do start off with the usual feudal nobility as Holland right here, but we have a new unique Tier 1 government reform, the Stadtholder monarchy right here, which is basically the Dutch Republic. And basically we can get plutocratic instead of aristocratic. We have the Dutch elections, don't have consorts, don't have heirs, the term durations are 4 years, and we have the status versus the orangist mechanics, where basically one of those guys gets re-elected, the other guys rule for life, and we have the parliament. But of course the reform modifiers are really good right here. We got plus 10% trade efficiency, plus 10% heavy ship combat ability, no stab loss on monarch death, reduced liberty desire on other continent subjects, and we can recruit the VOC India men ships, which is gonna be very useful later on in the game. So I do recommend swapping over to this. Of course you don't have to do it now, you can do it right away when you get 50 reform progress. I just remembered to mention it now because I got the pop-up. So I do recommend swapping over to this, and then later we're gonna get a Tier 2 government reform. Of course, when you swap over to this, you will get the parliament mechanic. You can just go ahead and assign a seat to whatever province you want to, and then you can go ahead and start a debate. You guys already know the debates. Lots of nations now have the parliament mechanic. You know, England has it. You can get it as Byzantium too, and just pick whatever here seems the best for you, and then go ahead and accomplish it. In my case, I'm gonna go for this one right here for the 30 gov reform progress and plus 25% reform progress growth for the next 10 years, which is gonna enable us to get the second government reform really quickly. So there we go. And of course, we just need to gain a little bit of inflation with only one seat. And there we go. It's passed. And of course, an election will happen once you do this. You can either choose the statist candidate or the orangest candidate. It depends on their stats. But of course, remember that one of these guys do rule for life. Either way, this guy is better, so I'm going to go with this guy. And you can see the statists versus orangist right here in your government tab. If it leans this way towards the orangist, this is what you get. If it leans towards the statists, this is what you get. Once you embrace the Renaissance, you should go ahead and tech up. And once you do get to Admin Tech 5, it will be time for your first idea group. Now, in my previous couple of guides, we have opened up with Quantity Economic. This, of course, leans into the whole playing tall meta with the development discount you get from Economic, the additional dev discount you get from Quantity Economic, but that's no longer the case. The dev discount has been moved from Economic to Infrastructure Ideas, and the policy also doesn't give you a dev discount. So even though Quantity would be really good because we're going to be rich and we are going to want to use all that money to build up a massive army, still, Quantity Economic is not the ideal opener anymore. Instead, a new idea group which we do need to utilize as Holland is Infrastructure Ideas. The state maintenance and global prosperity growth are great, the construction discount is excellent, expand infrastructure is excellent, the center of trade upgrade cost is very much needed, state's governing cost is great for playing tall, fort maintenance, construction time, and expanded administration cost, and of course the dev discount is here as well, so we will be taking Infrastructure Ideas. But maybe not for our first idea group. You see, we don't really need a mill idea group as Holland right now, and because we're going to be taking exploration and expansion for our third and fourth idea groups, and maybe mill ones later down the line, I do recommend right now opening up with one of these two idea groups, either trade ideas or infrastructure ideas. You might not think opening up with an admin idea group is that good because we're going to be using admin points, you know, to core stuff up and stuff like that, but we're not expanding that quickly. So it's not really a problem to open up with an admin idea group. So whichever one you want to, either trade or infrastructure, go for it. I do think trade is slightly better as an opener, and then infrastructure, then exploration, then expansion, and then we'll go with some mill ones. So what I recommend is trade ideas, but if you don't want to, go with infrastructure ideas. At this point, you can focus up on dip if you took trade, or focus up on admin if you took infrastructure. For your tier 2 government reform, in my opinion, as Holland, you have three options. You can either go with strengthen noble privileges for more manpower if the nobles aren't that influential, even though it's not that good anymore, or you could compromise with the nobility, so increased levies no longer gives influence, and you get a stab discount in yearly legitimacy, or you can get this unique HRE minor one, which gives you an advisor discount, monthly favor growth, and nobility max privileges +1. This is probably the best to lean into the whole playing tall thing with the advisor discounts, generating lots of monarch points and stuff like that, but if you're going for a more conquest heavy gameplay, you could go strengthen noble privileges or compromise with the nobility. But for playing tall purposes, I do think this one is the best, so that's why I recommend it. Once your truce with Burgundy expires, it is time to continue with your third war. And if you feel like you're strong enough, you have strong enough allies, I do recommend that you go ahead and fight Burgundy. If not, once again, after your truce with Burgundy expires, it is time to move on with your third war. And if you're not fighting them, you're gonna fight one of the three guys up here that you haven't fought, in my case, Friesland or Gelre. But in my case right here, if I want to declare on Burgundy, no one will join. If I want to declare on Brabant, no one will join. But if I declare on Flanders specifically, Austria will join, since Flanders isn't in the HRE. And even though Burgundy have gotten themselves lots of allies, I still think we can do this and take them on. So ideally for your third war, you declare on Burgundy again and their subjects, but if not, fight someone up here. So I'm just gonna declare on Flanders and call everyone in. And there we go, that's our third war started. And there we go, after a couple of years, the war with Burgundy is pretty much done, and I am gonna be honest, this was a pretty difficult and annoying war because they had so many allies, so be careful with the alliance situation when declaring your second war on Burgundy. Hopefully in your game, they don't get a bunch of annoying allies like in mine, but either way, the war is pretty much done. So, once your second war with Burgundy is done, once again, we're focusing on taking provinces over here in the Lowlands region that we need to form the Netherlands, and mainly provinces from their subjects, Flanders and Brabant. So I'm gonna take this province right here, which I declared for, and let's see if I take Antwerp, a coalition might form because it is so highly developed. So I'm just gonna go ahead and take these two provinces over here instead of Antwerp. We'll deal with that later. And of course, I'm also gonna get war reps. No money because our war participation might not be that high. And that's your second war with Burgundy done. 2 or 3 more provinces, just like in the first war. Once again, it's time to chill and improve relations with outraged countries. Around this point, it'll probably be possible for you to take some new burger loans, in which case it is time to build up your fleet a little bit. So I'm gonna go ahead and build 10 lightships here total to protect trade in the English Channel trade node, and then to this other fleet you can build a couple of more transports and some galleys as well to help you beat up the nations around you. There we go. This is what I'm gonna do for now. And here's another tip about the start of the game. If Burgundy lets you go for free, like I said, if you get a bunch of strong allies, you could get good relations with them once again and hopefully royal marry them, and then you could go for the Burgundian inheritance and hope that you inherit them. That's a little more finicky than just straight up breaking free from them, but it is a totally valid strategy if you want to go for it. I do think straight up fighting them and breaking free from them is also a little bit more fun. If you did open up with trade ideas, once you get your third merchant, you can put him wherever to transfer to the English Channel, or at this point you could still put him somewhere else to improve relations with outraged countries. Right now I got two guys, one in the English Channel, one in Rhine. Both of them are establishing communities, and aggressive expansion is still high-ish, but I'm pretty much improving in the regions I want to improve in already, so I'm just going to tell this guy to transfer from Champagne to the English Channel and simply maximize profit. No need to establish communities here. Don't forget to lower autonomy periodically. At this point, once you build up your ships, you will be able to take the mission Challenge Spanish Power, where you gain some ship bonuses and navy tradition. And if you got forts, you'll also be able to take the fixed garrison system, which gives you fort defense and garrison size for 20 years in your fort. Right now, about 20-ish years after the game has started, because I've kept my royal marriage with France this whole time and I've kept improving with them as much as I can, right now they've sent me an alliance offer, which is excellent. And we're also allied to both France and Austria, which is excellent. Right now I'm not allied to Cole anymore because Burgundy pieced them out and made them break their alliance with me, but earlier, before I declared on Burgundy, I also allied Denmark. So this is a pretty good alliance network right here. You should aim to have one or two big allies and a couple of small allies as well. And if you do manage to get France and Denmark, they should help you out versus England, which would be really cool. You may think that expansion is going pretty slowly, but like I said earlier, these are really high dev provinces that we're conquering right here, so of course it is going to be way slower to expand right here. We only have a few provinces and we're at 150 dev. Of course, in other regions you could expand way faster, but that's just the way it is over in the lowlands, pretty much the same as in Italy. Once you hit admin tech 6, you will be able to build workshops, and you should get to that immediately. After a little bit of time has passed after you fought Burgundy or whoever you fought in your third war, it's time to move on with your wars, and basically at this point we're aiming to conquer the entirety of the lowlands region, so you could be fighting Liège if you border them, maybe Burgundy if you didn't fight them for your third war, or maybe if your alliance situation permits it, you could even go for England, which is a nation that we are gonna fight. You will want to take their provinces over here if France doesn't have them already. If France has them, you will be fighting them in the mid or late game to take them from France, but we also want to expand over here. For this playing tall campaign, you should focus on taking over the lowlands region along with the English Channel trade node. I'm pretty satisfied with that in my gameplay. So right here, if France was willing to help me out, maybe it also hit England for Calais, or maybe we could push over here if our navy is strong enough. Either way, in my game right here, I'm going to be declaring on Friesland. And there we go. Now that my war with Friesland is done, I will be taking once again as much as possible. After your third war, aggressive expansion is gonna start to be a problem, so let's see. If I take what I declared for, 20 aggressive expansion, we're good. If I take this as well, 36, will a coalition form? Not really, because it's only 2 countries and we need 4 for a coalition to form. So I will be full annexing Friesland. However, alternatively, let's see what happens if we want to vassalize them. 36 AE if I conquer them, if I vassalize them, only 30. So it might be worth it to save some aggressive expansion and some admin points as well. Let's see, we're not rivaled, so they won't be really mad. And in fact, that is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna vassalize them and take all of their money. Why not? We'll integrate them later on and we save a little bit of aggressive expansion. So there we go. You could vassalize Gelre or Friesland or Utrecht, someone like that, if you want to. Right now I'm just helping out Austria fight Bohemia, but more importantly for your tier 3 government reform, I recommend taking centralized bureaucracy, mainly for the dev discount. It is really good. Or alternatively, you could go with expanded royal court for those advisors and even more reform progress growth. So one of these two, although I do think this one is better for the dev discount. Later, of course, when you get exploration and expansion for your 3rd and 4th idea groups, if you're colonizing and you want to colonize even faster, you could swap over to exile colonial companies. But for now, go with this. Once you hit admin deck 7, it will be time for your 2nd idea group, and if you open up with infrastructure, then you're gonna take trade. If you opened up with trade, then you're gonna take infrastructure. Of course, I opened up with trade, so I'm gonna go with infrastructure. Once you get your 4th merchant from your national ideas, you can once again put him in this region right here. I'm gonna send this guy to Lubeck to transfer, but I'm also gonna tell him to establish communities. Right now, all 4 of them are doing that. Once again, once aggressive expansion has died down, it is time to move on with your conquests. Now, in my game right here, I am noticing that I can declare on England and France France will help me out. This is mainly to help me beat up Portugal, Brittany, and East Frisia over here, and later we don't even have to naval invade England if they have provinces in continental Europe. If they're only over here, of course you will have to go ahead and naval invade them, and be sure to build up your navy before that. But in my game, I can just occupy Calais, everything over here and everything down here, and that'll be enough war score for me to take something over here. Of course, it is better to fight England for these provinces over here rather than France, so that's why if you have an opportunity to do something like this, then go for it. Let me say that this is not something that's necessary and not something you have to do during the time frame that this guide occupies. It's just a bonus, so if you can fight England, go for it. That's what I'm gonna do, so let me set these provinces as provinces of vital interest right here, the ones in the English Channel, and then we'll simply go ahead and declare for the conquest of Calais, and I'll call in France and the planet. Denmark was willing to help out earlier too, but they're fighting Sweden right now, so maybe I could call them in if they end this quickly, but if not, me and France are enough. And there we go, there's my war with England started. Like I said, not something that's necessary, but if you have the opportunity, do it. And there we go, I actually can go ahead and call in Denmark because they did finish their war with Sweden. In fact, they kept Sweden as their junior partner, so yeah, I'm gonna call them in. Their navy versus England is gonna come in really handy. At this point, I've wrapped up trade ideas, and there's an additional merchant, so if you opened up with trade, by this point, you have 5 merchants. I'm gonna put this one over in the North Sea. And during this war, the Burgundian succession has happened, and they have chosen to integrate under France, which actually is probably the worst option that could happen for you, because France is probably the most powerful nation that can get Burgundy. Now, here's something that's not that bad over in my case. Of course, right now, the Burgundian inheritance imperial incident is happening over in the HRE. And as we all know, Austria always loves to demand that the lowlands be released as independent countries. Now, France being such a strong nation, they usually reject that when Austria asks them. However, because they're in this war right now with me, there is a pretty high chance that France actually accepts that, meaning some of these nations over here will be released after all. So, if you're allied to France and the Burgundian inheritance happens and they get Burgundy, it's not a bad idea at all to actually declare a big war where you're gonna call in France, so they're more likely to give this up over to Austria. However, this does create a problem for us later down the line, because Burgundy, if they're still this big in your game, they still have a lot of provinces that we want. All of these right here in the English Channel trade node, along with a bunch over in the lowlands region. So fighting a super powerful France that has Burgundy is gonna be pretty tough for us. So let's see what happens in my game. Will France actually give in to Austria and release these countries or not? Either way, this is pretty bad luck on my part. Hopefully in your game, they choose to remain independent, or they choose to become a junior partner under someone weaker. Basically, let's hope that in your game, they don't pick France or Austria. And even more unfortunate, Austria did demand that the lowlands get released, but France did not accept, which means now I'm being called in as France's ally, and we're gonna have to fight this war, which isn't a big deal. France can easily beat Austria and Bohemia, but the problem is that these provinces remain under the control of Burgundy, and right after this war is done, France is gonna take that mission, and they're instantly gonna inherit Burgundy, which means in my game, France will have a hold of a lot of provinces that we need. Bad luck, unfortunately. Hopefully it goes better in your campaign. Either way, my war with England is done, and if they had possessions over in continental Europe, you should be able to get around 60 to 70% war score without even occupying the mainland. And if they do have stuff over here, of course you're gonna take everything that they have over in the English Channel trade node. You really don't care about Maine or anything else down here, so that's exactly what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna take this right here. All of the provinces that they have in the English Channel trade node. Keep in mind that these are French cores, so if you are allied to France, they may get mad that you do this. But either way, it is important that we take it. I'm also gonna get war reps and all of their money, and that's my war with England done. Like I said, fighting them is just a bonus, totally not necessary for this portion of the guide. Right now, because I took some more provinces, centralized regular bureaucracy has been abolished for me, and I now have centralized monarchical bureaucracy, which means it isn't that good anymore, so I'll be swapping over to expanded royal court. Of course, whenever you have extra points like this, you are gonna be deving. Don't let them just sit around, collecting dust. Just push whichever provinces you want to. Ideally, playing optimally, you'd activate encourage dev first, make sure the burghers are loyal and stuff like that. But if not, if you're like me and you don't really care about optimizing that much, just dev whatever you want to. And I did also peace out of this France-Austria war by myself. And Austria did end up losing this war. France did end up keeping Burgundy, and they've also taken 2 provinces from Austria. Not good. And of course, now they're gonna break that alliance with me because I peaced out of that Austria war and because I took these provinces from England, which are their cores. Either way, this doesn't matter too much. I would have had to break my alliance with them either way because they got Burgundy and we want a lot of their land. So what I'm gonna do is simply rival France just like this. And now, if something like this happens in your game, basically if France gets Burgundy, you're gonna attempt to ally their rivals. If Austria gets Burgundy, you're gonna attempt to ally their rivals. Also, you can fight whoever Burgundy ended up being a junior partner under. In my case here, I can ally Castile, which is really good. So now I'm allied to two French rivals, Austria and Castile. With their help, we'll probably be able to take France down, and as we can see, even Denmark wants to join in. Additionally, I'll re-ally Austria. Right now, since 10 years have passed after I vassalized Friesland, I am gonna go ahead and annex them. If you did vassalize some of these nations, annex them immediately once 10 years have passed. Make sure to give the nobility integration policy first though, so you don't lose Diplo rep once you do. So there we go, I'm just gonna annex Friesland. And there we go, I've just annexed Friesland. Additionally, I also just got a claim on East Frisia, so I'll be continuing with my wars by declaring on them. Right now, we're just cleaning up all the smaller nations that are left in this region in the lowlands. I can't fight Liège because they're allied to France, and obviously I can't take anything from Burgundy that I want because, well, they're a junior partner under France. So that's why it's East Frisia and Gelre that are left for me in this region. Right now, since there's not many nations left here, and we don't really have that high aggressive expansion, I am gonna tell all of my merchants to maximize profit instead of establish communities. And there we go, trade income went from about 14 ducats to 23. And now that I pieced out Scotland, East Frisia's ally, I can go ahead and full annex them. There we go. Gelre is next. And like I said, AE is good, so I will go ahead and declare on Gelre for the conquest of Gelre. I'm gonna call in the Palatinate to help out a bit. And there we go, my war with Gelre is done, so of course I'll be full annexing them. And that's that. Pretty much every nation that I can fight over in the lowlands, I have fought them. The only provinces in the lowlands left are owned by Burgundy, which is a junior partner of France, and by Liège, which is an ally of France. So that's as far as my expanding will go over in this region, at least until we can go ahead and fight France. Denmark would still join me, Castile would join with the promise of land. The accepting would destabilize Castile is probably because they have mill access or something like that, or maybe because they support Burgundy, not sure. But what I'm really waiting for is to fight France is for Austria's truce with them to expire. After that, me, Denmark, Castile, and Austria, which has Bohemia by the way, we can all fight France and Burgundy and beat them up. Unfortunately, Castile rejected Aragon this campaign. For your tier 4 government reform, I recommend taking maintain balance of power. Sure, if you're friendly with the Pope like I am, you could go for lands for the church for all of these awesome papal bonuses, but we are probably gonna be going Protestant later on, so really there's no point in this. Of course, it does give other bonuses for being Protestant, but you could flip over to it once you do flip Protestant if you want to. So for now, maintain balance of power. Of course, you shouldn't be focusing only on conquests at this point. During all this time, I have been upgrading all of my centers of trade that I own to level 2. As we can see, I can even upgrade one to level 3 pretty soon, and you should be focusing on building workshops. I've built them in all the high value trade good provinces, building marketplaces in all the estuary center of trade provinces, a couple of army buildings as well in the Cow, for example, provinces, or in the ones that give you lots of manpower, and a bunch of churches as well in all the provinces, which give me more than 0.1 ducats. Now that Austria's truce with France is up, and if I want to declare on France, I can notice that Denmark, Austria, and Castile would all join and help me. I do think this is a pretty good time for me to declare on them. Let's see if they join directly versus Burgundy. They would, in fact, so I am going to declare on Burgundy. Like I said, this is the worst possible scenario, France getting Burgundy. This is the most powerful nation you'll have to fight for these territories right here, so maybe it's good that it happened in my guide so I can demonstrate how to do it. But of course, like I said, you will want to ally as many French rivals as you can that border them, Castile, Aragon, maybe someone over in Italy, Austria, of course. Maybe you could even ally England if you haven't fought them yet for some land over here, and you need to use all the help you can get in order to help you fight France if they've gotten Burgundy. So that's what I'm going to do in my case. I'm going to declare for Antwerp right here, call in Denmark, Austria, the Palatinate, and Castile, and Bohemia is going to come in as well because they're a junior partner of Austria, and Norway and Sweden are going to come in as well because they're junior partners of Denmark. Still, this is an extremely difficult war, so be careful when you do it. And there we go, after about 6 years, I feel like we've pushed France back enough. Like I said, this was a really difficult war. Castile really didn't help out that much. They got stuck over in Scotland, but in the end, we did manage to come out on top, and I did make Liège break their alliance with France so we could fight them later on as well. But this is pretty much the most difficult war you're possibly gonna have to do during the early game. Either way, now that this war is done, these are high dev provinces, so don't be discouraged if you fight this war and you can't take a lot. In my case, I'm only gonna go for these two provinces right here since they're 51 aggressive expansion. Brussels and Antwerp are super high dev, but it still is worth it. But something else that we can do with the remaining war score is pretty nice in this war. We can also make France or Burgundy release a bunch of countries up here, so we won't have to fight them later, and we'll just fight the small guys that pop out. So Hainaut is a nation that can be popped out over here, along with Picardy. And there we go. Those are some nice provinces that we can take in the English Channel trade node and in the Low Countries, and we won't have to fight France or Burgundy. Additionally, I'll also get war reps and some money. And that's my war with these guys done. If you do release some nations from them, make sure to cancel your guarantee over them just like that. And don't worry if someone else fights them. Maybe England will come back in and take a piece of these guys. Of course, if this is happening in your campaign. Or maybe someone that's over here will push into them. No biggie. As long as it's not France or Burgundy, we're good. Once again, right now, after you fought whoever you did, it's time to let aggressive expansion die down. And by around the time colonialism comes around, your game should look a little something like this. Basically, we start off as the nation of Holland and fought Burgundy in the Independence War, and in the Independence War, you should have taken two provinces, like I said, either these two right here or these two, and after that, because these are so highly dev provinces after that war, and pretty much after every war, we waited around for quite a bit for aggressive expansion to die down before expanding even more. After your initial war with Burgundy, you should have fought one of the three nations up here, Friesland, Utrecht, or Gelre, and then fought another one, waited for your truce with Burgundy to expire, push into them, and pretty much all the wars that we're doing during this part of the guide are to take control of the Low Countries region right here. And like I said, if you got lucky and if you had an opportunity, you may have fought England for provinces in continental Europe in the English Channel trade node, or maybe even something up here. But like I said, fighting England is just a bonus, and by this point, you should own all the necessary provinces in order to form the Netherlands, and you should own a big portion of the lowlands and of the English Channel trade node. Of course, during this point, we weren't only expanding and fighting some of the other Dutch miners in Burgundy and England. You should have also been improving your nation economically quite significantly by opening up with trade infrastructure or infrastructure trade. As you can see in my game, I've upgraded all the centers of trade that I own up to level 2. You should have done the same in your game, and I built marketplaces in all the relevant provinces, built workshops in all the relevant provinces, built churches in all the relevant provinces. There we go, there's a couple more, some army buildings and stuff like that, and you should have been doing the same in your campaign. And by this point in the game, it's 1506 right now. I'm making 33 ducats a month, 30 of which is from trade with armies up, and this is a full army right here, 2547 according to combat width, and with a bunch of forts down. But if I lower army maintenance, it goes up to 36, and this is how my army looks. And I also have two pretty sizable navies, the battle fleet right here, which has 20 galleys and 15 transports, and the light ship fleet right here protecting trade, which has 14 light ships, but you will want to get up to 20 in order to get this mission done right here. Regarding boats, after you finish these two idea groups, you'll be aiming to go with exploration expansion, and when you do start colonizing, you will need to build up massive fleets to ferry your armies all around the world to fight the natives, fight other colonizers, or fight whichever nation is there. So once you get close to Admin Tech 10 and close to exploration, you should start building up a massive fleets with many transports and many heavies and galleys as well, and you should have a few light ship fleets protecting trade in the English Channel, in Lubeck, and in the North Sea. Each of them around 10 to 20 light ships would be good enough. After this point, you're going to continue to expand in the same direction we've already been expanding in, and of course you're going to aim to form the Netherlands. Like I said earlier, this will kick us out of the HRE, so make sure to take over all of the provinces in the Low Countries and in the English Channel trade node that are in the HRE before you do that. You won't want to fight the Emperor after that every time, but you'll continue to push and conquer all of the lowlands, which is this region right here. In my case, I have 2 more provinces I need to get from Hainaut, which I popped out from Burgundy, 3 more provinces from Liège, and 1 more province from Burgundy. And after you wrap up the Low Countries, you should focus on the English Channel trade node by fighting whoever owns these provinces right here. Like I said, maybe it's England, maybe it's Burgundy, maybe it's France, and later, of course, pushing into England/Great Britain once you're strong enough to take them on yourself and naval invade them. I could do it even in my previous war with the help of Denmark, of course. And like I said, for this Playing Tall campaign, you should aim to own all of the Low Countries and all of the English Channel trade node over in Europe. Anything more than that, you don't really need it. If you don't want it, you could do something based on some role-playing type scenarios that you have. However, in expansion outside of Europe, which is something you're going to be doing a lot, this is what you should do. And right here, I'm just going to reveal the map in order to show you guys what to do. So as Holland and the Netherlands, of course, our missions tell us to go towards the East Indies, towards Southeast Asia, and you don't really have to colonize the New World if you don't want to as the Netherlands. But if you do want to colonize the New World, I recommend going for North America. Anything south of the Caribbean, you don't really need to focus on. So anything from Panama over to Patagonia, you don't really need this. If you want to colonize the New World, go for this right here. However, much more valuable than the New World is the Old World, and you're going to focus on colonizing the coast of Africa right here. Like I've mentioned many times in my colonial nation guides like Castile and Portugal, you're going to take your colonists to the furthest available province. So maybe right here if this is available, then right here, then over here until we get to Southeast Asia, because this is what we really want to colonize. So after you get there, you can tell a couple of colonists to colonize here. With the other ones, you can fill out the coast of Africa, and with an additional one, maybe you could go for North America. But like I said, this is what you should aim to own in North America. However, for the Old World, you should aim to take control of the entire Ivory Coast trade node, and you should trade company all of it, all of the Cape of Good Hope, and all of Zanzibar. So you definitely need to go for these three, trade company all of them. An optional one is the Gulf of Aden trade node. If you do choose to conquer that, you should trade company it as well. Then over in India, you should go for Gujarat, Doab, Bengal, Deccan, and Coromandel right here, these regions. And you should of course establish trade companies everywhere in all of these other old world trade nodes that aren't basically over in Europe. And of course over here is where your forte is gonna be. You should focus on Malacca, the Philippines, and the Moluccas. Additional bonus regions that you might want to conquer here are Burma and Siam, and if your game goes on for way longer, you could go for China as well. So what you need to conquer in the Old World is the Ivory Coast, Cape of Good Hope, and Zanzibar, these 5 in India, and these 3 in Southeast Asia. However, optional bonus ones that you could go for are the Gulf of Aden, Burma and Siam, and then these Chinese regions right here. And that is what you should aim to own by the end of your campaign. Trust me, once you start colonizing in a few decades, you'll be rolling in dough. We're pretty rich right now, but by then trade income will be in the hundreds, if not thousands, if you're an experienced player. So those are the regions you should go for in the Old World, while keeping your playing tall nation over here in Europe on lock in the English Channel and in the Low Countries. Speaking of making money, for our first 2 idea groups, we opened up with trade infrastructure or infrastructure trade, depending on what you wanted to go for. For your 3rd and 4th idea groups, you will be going exploration expansion. So those are your first 4 idea groups: trade, infrastructure, exploration, expansion. And then for the other 4 idea groups, basically you should focus on idea groups that will make you money and focus on idea groups that will bring you very nice policies. So quantity and quality make really good pairs with trade. Then you could take economic as well, even though it's not really that good anymore. You could go with Pluto as well. There are really good money making things right here, such as the dev discount, the goods produced, the merchant as well. But either way, most of them are up to you. What I recommend is trade, infrastructure, exploration, expansion, quantity, quality, and then you could go economic and Pluto if you even play that far. And if you're wondering why we didn't open up with exploration expansion, the truth is we're too far away to colonize at that point in the game either way, and the land that we do want to colonize isn't gonna get colonized by the time we take it for our 3rd and 4th idea groups. So no need to open up with them. They're just gonna sit around doing nothing. It's much better to open up with something that's gonna help us out immediately. This is what we took for our first 4 government reforms. Like I said, we swapped to this. We took this over here, which is a unique HRE1. You probably will lose this once you leave the HRE, so you could swap to compromise or strengthen right here. For your tier 5 government reforms, since we're playing so heavy navally, you could go with some of the naval ones, but honestly they're not really that necessary, in which case I just recommend military engineering. For tier 6, you should go with royal decree. For tier 7, you should go with meritocratic recruitment. For tier 8, you could go with exploitation of the New World, or you could embrace the economic theory, or curtail the burghers, or empower the burghers. All 4 of those are really good as the Netherlands. For tier 9, you should go with this one or this one. And for tier 10 and tier 11, all of them are really good. You won't make a mistake choosing either one of them, so go with whichever one you want and whichever one you need at the point in the game in which you're taking them. And like I said, by around the time colonialism spawns, your realm should look a little something like this. Let me know in the comments below what's the next nation that I should do a guide on. If you want to watch me do stuff like this live, you can follow me on twitch.tv/TheRedHawkLive, and if you want to catch up on stuff from over there, you can subscribe to the 2nd channel, link is in the description. If you enjoyed this video, don't hesitate to leave a like, it really helps out a lot, and if you like the content and want to see more videos like this, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any of them. And you can become a member today and join the Discord, the link is in the description. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time with another EU4 video.